Read the disclaimer. Doofus. And please contact us through this email address with questions or fan art. Thank you for your support.
One thing that you may have noticed about me from my many reviews is the fact that I really don't tend to collect figures of legacy characters. This is because, well, to be perfectly honest, not a lot of them are very interesting. I'm not talking about the figures themselves, no sir. I'm talking more about the characters they're related to. Key example, Sideswipe. I don't have any emotional connection to him. He's not very interesting. He never got really any spotlight episodes in G1. So when a astounding figure of one of these legacy characters comes out, I am certain to grab it because, well, I may not like the character, but at least the figure is fun. Salutations, denizens of the internet. I'm Firebite27, and let us commence our analysis of Transformers Reveal the Shield Special Ops Jazz.
In vehicle mode, Special Ops Jazz turns into what could be described as a clone of Classics 2006 Bumblebee and Cliffjumper, not only in terms of its overall shape and appearance, but also because it's trying to avoid using an alternate mode that would piss off Volkswagen. Granted, this figure was produced exactly 1 decade before Hasbro realized that they could kinda get away with making characters of their G1 alternate modes by just making royalty-free versions of the alt modes in question. Mind you, this was also very much the age of the designers just saying, well, let's see what we can do with the characters this time, and honestly, I think they pulled it off in terms of the actual design of the car. Mind you, it's also a bit more refreshing than the current mindset of just G1, G1, G1! I mean, the shape of the car isn't the only thing that sets it apart from the G1 design. If you open up the doors, you can actually flip out these little speakers on clip, which were a big part of the Reveal the Shield play pattern. All you need to do is just pose them however you like them to look on the side of your car, and congratulations! You have now turned this beloved Autobot into that one douchebag who decides to play shitty Eminem music in his car so loud that you can hear it in a soundproofed building across the street. I don't feel the need to elaborate any further. If you do this, you know who you are, and screw you.
Carry the bag of dicks, you jobby ripoff.
Wait, what? God, Maya, make it stop!
I can't. I've got no idea where the sound's even coming from.
Now here's another gimmick of this figure. You can store the gun on the underside of the hood. I love this, partially because A, that's really neat, nice, and clean weapon storage, and B, you can transform the gun. Though unfortunately this wasn't in the age of mounting the guns everywhere thanks to the siege ports, though that is anything but a problem. What is a problem is the line-wide gimmick of the rub sign. Now, of course, I actually kinda like rub signs, I will admit. However, what's annoying about the Reveal the Shield figure specifically is that they only used rub signs. Now, unlike figures from G1, they just have the one rub sign, no other faction symbols, which kind of annoys me. However, it's not a huge issue. But on the topic of big issues with this vehicle mode, we have the plastic. It's basically the same plastic that they used for the majority of CJ Base, which I can't complain. For a while I did really like CJ Base, but the plastic that they used was so gross and icky and swallowed up so much of the details, which is exactly what the plastic on RTS Jazz does. With the two areas that I take the most issue with in this regard being the front bumper and the back of the car. Of course, this is a problem that could be fixed with a lick of paint, but at the same time, I think the bigger problem here is more the plastic that they chose as opposed to the deco, which, by the way, is excellent. You've got everything from his racing livery to the red bumper painted on this figure, and also the black number 4 on the sides. This is immaculate. And I'm more than confident in saying that it will definitely please the G1ers among us.
Among us. I think you may have meant to say.
Maya, I am begging you, do not say what I— Irrelevant jokes, no! Now then, in researching this figure, I found out that a lot of people were complaining, at least at the time, that deluxes were getting a lot smaller. And honestly, I can kinda see it, but I think in order to get a good idea of how small it was next to recent deluxes, we need to do some size comparisons. Here's Reveal the Shield Special Ops Jazz next to my last review, Off-Road Bumblebee. My last Reveal the Shield review, Lugnut. My next review, Siege Shockwave. A deluxe of a similar size, Hunt for the Decepticon's Tomahawk. A deluxe that feels larger, 07 Movie Long Arm. A smaller deluxe, Kingdom Air Razor. And of course, a standard Qtama, a standard can of sparkling water, and Fraudside. So overall, I feel that this figure has a lot of problems in its alternate mode. However, I don't think that they're the fault of the mold itself. I think it's more the fault of the materials they used. Now then, Jazz, transform!
What a day this has been, what a rare mood I'm in. Why, it's almost like being in love.
Now, the transformation on this thing, I don't want to say it sucks, but I find myself extremely underwhelmed by it. Like, there are many parts of this figure that are engineered to perfection, such as the chest where you fold it down and automorph up the head, and also pull out the shoulders from the hood of the car. But then you've got unsatisfying moments such as the legs. Oh dear god, I hate the legs. They have this weird tendency to get shoved and jammed up into each other, and I think it's mostly because of the spring-loaded automorph. In short, gear-based automorph good, spring-based automorph bad. And even so, that complement might need to be temporarily retracted because there's no way to lock the chest down. As I've attempted to show in the clip, this figure feels like it has a detent that should allow you to lock the chest into place, but instead it just pops out and you're instead left with a floppy chest. Fortunately, there are cool moments of transformation such as the gun, which, despite being a bit generic, looks really cool. Unfortunately, unlike Lugnut and Tomahawk, there isn't any unintentional blast effect compatibility on this figure, but it was unintentional. And hey, at least the gun has compatibility with 3mm clips. And even though they probably would have looked better mounted on the back instead of the front, at least it has 2 more than Laser Rod Optimus Prime from Reveal the Shield. I also have a few issues with the back, mainly that the main panel is mostly clear plastic, and that I don't like because it's fragile. But fortunately, the fragility only does so much to dampen my experience, since, well, to be perfectly frank, the backpack can clean up pretty nice once you folded the door wings back. And honestly, my one last problem with this figure is the fact that, well, the sculpting is all devoured up by shade. Like, his hips especially have some really nice details, but the black plastic combined with the shadows cast by his upper torso just kinda make it disappear. But that's basically where my complaining ends, because man, this is such a good figure. There are so many little pieces of it that make it just mwah, French chef's kiss. Like, I am obsessed with the wheel shoulder pads and the presence they provide this figure, and the sleek and slender proportions combined with a dynamic sculpt make me feel like this is some kind of secret agent Jazz. The head is also quintessentially Jazz, but the expression leaves me feeling as though it's actually Judge Dredd with teddy bear ears. I am the law! And I'm not making this comment without cause. The light piping on this figure doesn't work, and in fact, when you don't have a light source that's as bright as the flashlight on my phone shining behind it, it doesn't look like a blue visor at all. It looks like a black tinted visor, like the helmet on Judge Dredd. And honestly, bad light piping is a common design trope that I see in the Reveal the Shield line, from Lugnut to Laser Optimus Prime to this figure. All of them have light piping that doesn't work on some level. My only guess as to why this is a consistent issue is because the clear plastic they used for the windows was meant to represent tinted windows. And when they used the same clear plastic as the windows for the light piping, that basically gave it some of its light absorbing / reflecting properties. But even in spite of my many complaints, this is still a top-tier robot mode thanks in large part to its articulation.
In robot mode, Jazz's head is on a ball joint, with hinged shoulder doors for outwards movement, and clips that can rotate out. The speakers are attached to a hinge at the clip, then on a ball joint, and then finally a hinge. Shoulders possess hinges for shrugs, and ball joints for every other movement. Biceps rotate. Elbows bend over 90 degrees on a double hinge, and wrists rotate on a ball joint. His waist can rotate freely. However, the backpack hinders this movement. Hips are on universal joints, legs rotate at the thighs, bend over 90 degrees at the leg, and even bend in a pose that makes them look like they're broken. My leg! And while he does not possess any ankle tilts, he does have his ankles sculpted to simulate a tilt.
So overall, while Jazz's articulation might be dated in a few regards, there's no denying that it is simultaneously very modern and also kind of beyond modern figures. Most figures these days don't get more than 90 degrees of movement in their arms and legs, so it's nice to see that this figure was kind of ahead of the curve. And fortunately, while this figure doesn't have an ankle tilt, it doesn't really need one. Also, can I just mention that I love how this tall, lanky robot popped out of a small, chubby vehicle. Oh hey, we've reached the size comparisons. Here's Reveal the Shield Jazz, next to Off-Road Bumblebee, Lugnut, Shockwave, Tomahawk, Long Arm, Air-Razor, a standard Qtama, a standard can of sparkling water, and Broadside.
So, overall, is Reveal the Shield Special Ops Jazz worth adding to your collection? Yep, I'd say so. Even though the vehicle mode is kinda weak in all honesty, it's still the best incarnation of Jazz on the market right now, at least in terms of chunk. In terms of actual quality, I'd say the best out there is animated, but I don't own that figure yet. Of course, I also don't own Studio Series, but from what I've seen, it's just boring. And don't even get me started on the flimsiness that was Power of the Primes. So, overall, this figure might just be the most perfect Jazz out there on the market right now, coming in at a nice 9 out of 10. And with that being said, please remember to like this video, share it with your friends, yada yada yada, yak yak yak, subscribe, donate to Patreon for early access to reviews. Now with that being said, this is Firebite27, over and out. And don't forget...
You like jazz?